Hi, this is Ishita Datta, a legal intern at Lexis & Company, and today I will be talking about the topic which is the doctrine of causation. Causation is the causal relationship between the defendant's conduct and the result. In a criminal activity, there are always three elements, namely actus rea, mens rea and causation. Despite the presence of both actus rea and mens rea, a criminal act can be unsustainable in the eyes of law because of the absence or lack of causation. For example, A, intending to murder B, puts a bomb in his car. B dies because of the car accident with someone else but does not because of that bomb. Now in such a situation, A can't be held liable despite having that mental element and the act. The simple reason is that A's action did not cause B's death, and therefore A will only be held liable for an attempt to murder. Therefore, causation is an indispensable element of criminal law. The doctrine of causation is based on the simple premise that a man can only be held liable for the consequence of his actions. The entire doctrine is effectively based on the interpretations of a single word, which is consequence. It is best illustrated by an illustration B of section 299 of the Indian Penal Code 1860. A knows Z to be behind a bush. B does not know it. A, intending to cause or knowing it to be likely to cause Z's death, induces B to fire at the bush. B fires and kills Z. Here B may be guilty of no offense, but A has committed the offense of culpable homicide. In this illustration, causation is used to establish the link between actus rea and mens rea. A person can be held liable for all the consequences of his actions that can be reasonably expected from him or her. So what is the relationship between causation and liability? To answer this, now and again, causation is one piece of a multi-arranged test for legal obligation. For instance, for the defendant to be held liable for the tort of negligence, the respondent more likely than not owed the offended party an obligation of a care, broke that obligation by harming the offended party, and that harm must not have been excessively remote. Causation is only one segment of the tort. So on different events, causation is the main necessity for legal liability. For instance, in the law of product obligation, the courts have come to apply to the guideline of strict liability. The way that the respondent's product caused the offended party harm is the main thing that matters. The respondent need not additionally have been negligent. So on still different events, causation is an insignificant to the legal liability altogether. For instance, under an agreement of indemnity, insurance, the insurer agrees to repay the casualty for hurt damage not brought about by the insurer, but by different parties. So what is the establishing causation? So for establishing the doctrine of causation, one must investigate into factual causation and legal causation, thereby convicting anyone of legal liability. Firstly, factual causation must be established and then followed by the legal causation. So, establishing factual causation. What is this? There is a test, namely, but for test, it says that but for the defendant's act, the harm would not have occurred. A throws a big stone at B. We ask, but for A's act, would B have been injured? The answer is no. So we conclude that A caused the harm or injury to B. The test is a test for necessity. One shortcoming in the but for test emerges in the circumstances where every one of a few acts alone is adequate to cause the damage. For instance, if both X and Y fire what might alone be lethal shots at Z at around a similar time and C dies, it gets very difficult to state that but for X's shot or but Y's shot alone, Z would have died. Taking the but for test truly in such a case would appear to make neither X nor Y liable for Z's demise. In the case of R versus White, the defendant tried to kill his mother by putting poison in her drink. His mother died shortly afterwards from a heart attack. The poison had not taken effect and therefore he wasn't liable or guilty of murder. The prohibited result's mother's death still would have occurred without the defendant's actions. He was held liable for an attempt to murder. So, but for White trying to poison his mother, she still would have died. Here the defendant wasn't the actual cause. In another case of R versus Paget, The defendant shot at the police, and when the police fired back at him, he used his girlfriend as a human shield. His girlfriend was killed by the shot fired by the police, but he was convicted for manslaughter. The court said that but for the defendant's actions using his girlfriend as a human shield, she wouldn't have died here. Here the defendant was the factual cause for it. So what is establishing legal causation? To answer this, once factual causation has been proved, then we have to prove legal causation. So it asks that whether the defendant's act was the operative and substantial cause of a death, or was the main cause of the death a real cause. It is also based on the principle of common sense. So for example, A hit his leg into B's chin and bleeding starts. She goes to the hospital in the car, and the car is struck by lightning and B dies as a result. So the factual causation, but for kicking her in the chin, she would have not been in the car and she would not have died. So A is the factual cause, and the question here is that is A the operative and substantial cause of her death? Although A is liable for the initial injuries, A is not liable for the death. Once such a thing is established, we will have to investigate the things that can break the chain of causation. It is called novus actus or intervenience, meaning thereby intervening an act which breaks the chain of causation. The act could be the victim's act, the act of a third party, or the act of God. However, not every intervening act qualifies as a novus actus, intervenience. The intervening act must be such that it is not foreseeable or intended, but in some cases when the intervening act is the free, deliberate and informed act of another agent, the original causation breaks despite the consequence being an intended consequence. So what in conclusion I would like to say that under this doctrine, every criminal act is shown to have linked from the mens rea to the actus rea. As long as the link of causation remains unbroken, the active accused is assumed or believed to have caused the consequence. However, in IPC, every section has its unusual approach to causation in criminal activity. Because of the lack of uniform doctrine, there exists an ambiguity. So such ambiguity leads a stupid and an absurd result, and it needs to be addressed. Thank you so much.